Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Mercifully, Saints season will end on Sunday. Mike Triplett's here. Happy New Year, Mike. How are you?
Happy New Year. Look, has a new year ever been more important to a franchise?
I'm sure, I don't know for this franchise, but for other franchises, quite possibly. Let's get the obligatory stuff for this game out of the way so we can talk about the stuff people actually want to talk about. No Carr, we're assuming no Kamara, so and Olave is questionable. Who are we expecting to be the main contributors on Sunday?
Oh, my goodness. Well, we've got Spencer Rattler starting again at quarterback, which is interesting because we've shifted our page to the future of this team, and still every chance we get to find out, what he looks like. I think it was promising that he had a good half last week. He needs to have more than a good half, but obviously all judgment will be reserved on him till next year. But at least it's something about the future. Maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be part of this team's future. I think he'll probably be the lead back in this game. But man, it's hard to get excited about much else beyond that.
Do you have any observations? Have you been able to make any observations about Spencer Rattler through 5 starts?
I don't have anything conclusive on Spencer Rattler through 5 starts. I mean, there might just be a certain threshold he's never able to fully overcome, but I do like that it hasn't looked too big for him in the sense that, like, hey, if they decided, I don't think this is what they'll do. I don't know for sure this is what they'll do, but if they did decide, hey, let's roll with him next year. I mean, I always keep coming up with Will Levis as an example, which is not a very promising one since he got benched this year, but like, hey, let's make Will Levis or shoot, you could say Aiden O'Connell, the Raiders quarterback who just came into the Dome and beat the crap out of the Saints. Like, if you decided that's what you want to do next year, I think that's feasible. I think he could be your starting quarterback going into next year while you rebuild and think about the future and see if he wants to make you rethink drafting another one a year later. And there's obviously a lot of highs we've seen. We've seen a lot of great throws on the run, throws while jumping, throws while outside of the pocket, making things happen, big arm strength and the poise and all that. So I'd like to see more of them.
With the Bucs or the Falcons, I mean, obviously what happens in Tampa will determine who's going to win the division going to the playoffs. Is there a preference for New Orleans, which you'd rather see happen?
I don't think it matters in any meaningful way. I mean, there is obviously the best thing you could do for your fan base is knock the Falcons out of the playoffs because they hate the Falcons more, and the best thing you could do for your fan base is lose the game so you can get a higher draft pick. But I think the Saints' preference would be to play well and win their last game going into the offseason. So that's their preference. Our preference is be different.
I'm sorry. Have you looked at the draft order? Like, is there a scenario where this? I thought they couldn't go higher than 10th. Is there a scenario where they could?
No, they can't. They can't do worse than 10th, which is good. So if they win, they stay at 10th. There are ways they could get up to 9th or 8th if the Raiders win, which is actually possible. Like, if you really want to get into this for fun, root for Pittsburgh to win on Saturday, which means the Chargers would have nothing to play for on Sunday, and then maybe the Raiders to beat the Chargers, and then the other one is the Bears. If the Bears win a game against the Packers, if they decide to pull their starters and don't care about seeding, the Saints could move ahead of the Bears. And then there's an outside chance the Saints could move ahead of the Jets, but it would come down to some percentage points things happening that's too sophisticated for me. So Raiders win, or Bears win are the two best ways to move up one or two spots.
Okay, Mike Triplett's with us, neworleans.football on Twitter at Mike Tripplett. Of course, our chats all season long are brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Visit bennyscarwash.com, bennyscarwash.com. Okay, so they'll play a game on Sunday, and then the result will be what it is, and the season will be over mercifully, and they'll move on. Everyone's talking about what happens. The biggest order of business will be the coaching search. Do you see any scenario where Darren Rizzi could get the job?
I mean, I cannot rule it out. It seems unlikely to me. I think he had to really, really, really defy expectations and be above and beyond, and just hasn't been able to do that. Obviously, got a lot of good qualities, but he hasn't been able to walk on water and lead this team beyond its reality. So I think of him as a dark horse, but I think he'll get an interview and be considered. And I can't completely rule it out, but odds are stacked against him, I think.
How much stock do you put into the John Gruden reports?
I mean, he may get consideration. I would be pretty surprised if he was the final answer. Not because I think the Saints would be philosophically opposed to it, but just his candidacy doesn't seem super strong to me. It's a what have you done for me lately league, and he's been out of it for a while, and he wasn't having overwhelming success before that. But, Mike McCarthy, I don't know if you're going to ask about him too, John Gruden, Mike McCarthy, there's no excitement whatsoever that I don't think either of those names would generate from the fan base, but they have winning in their history, and, if a team's going to think outside the box, I guess it's going to be the Saints.
Could the Gruden pairing with Derek Carr make sense if the Saints are committed? Maybe that's a better question, are the Saints committed to Derek Carr? Could that make sense with Gruden and Carr?
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing about that. You'll see it on the website by the end of the night. I don't think they should be. And I think of myself as one of the bigger Derek Carr supporters. I think Derek Carr is in a tier of quarterbacks that if the situation is right, he's a good choice for your team. And we're seeing that around the league a lot. The Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, if you've got a good team, you can win with them. But I do not want to see the Saints pay $40 million for a quarterback next year. I don't want to see them make their coaching hire based on building around a 34-year-old quarterback who costs $40 million, has had some injury issues. So I hope that's not the direction of the team. But I mean, that is a reason why he may be considered.
Do you think Derek Carr will be back?
If I had to bet on it, I would say yes. If they let me make the decision, I would say only if he took a substantial pay cut. Now, I would keep him. I would keep him over other veteran options that cost about the same amount of money if he was going to take a major, major pay cut. But like I said, I don't think Derek Carr should want to go into free agency and have to pick another team. I think there's some things that have been a good fit for him here, but there's no way I'm paying anywhere near $40 million for a quarterback who's not the answer for my team right now with the state of this team.
Is there a way financially out from under that? My understanding is that you look at the dead cap money, it's going to be $50 million next year if he's not here.
Well, I mean, his cap number is $51 million. His dead number would be $50 million. So, yes, it can be done. The problem is you can't then use his contract to do your restructure, and you would pretty much literally have to restructure every other contract on the team just to get under the cap. Now, you'd be out from under Carr's deal in 1 year if you did that. So, there's a light at the end of the tunnel if you do that. But you can't really sign any other free agents or anything. Now, there's also creative ways to do it. You could give him a little parting gift and say, hey, will you lower your salary to the league minimum on the way out the door so we can get some cap relief, and we'll give you, we'll let you keep your $10 million bonus as a parting gift. I mean, they did that with Michael Thomas on his way out. He got $1 million for lowering his salary. They do that when players retire. They did that with Drew Brees and Malcolm Jenkins. So there are ways they could do it and make it worth his while. So they're not forced to keep him if they don't want to.
Okay. So what about a timeline, pivoting back to the Derek Carr conversation came as we were talking about Gruden, pivoting back to the coaching search, timeline for when they might like to have something done?
On the coaching search or Carr?
Well, I guess both, but let's start with the coaching search.
I mean, I think coach comes first. I think Carr is obviously part of those conversations. The team sharing its vision with the coach sharing his vision with the team. Do they align? Would they be willing to make a different decision than what they're leaning toward based on what a coach wants? And I'm very curious. I mean, I could see coaches wanting to keep Carr. I could see coaches wanting to be like, hey, I can come in and win the NFC South. I believe in myself. You give me a couple free agents here and there, and you give me Derek Carr, I'm going to go win you 10 games. There might be coaches that feel that way. There might be coaches that don't want, you're getting rid of Derek Carr and signing 0 free agents while you catch up on the cap, so I'm going to go 3-14 this year. Great. But at the same time, if New Orleans is a place where you could feel pretty comfortable, they're going to give you time and patience. So if they say, hey, this is year 1 of the 3-year plan, but we're going to let you have time to build it, I'd like to see that be the plan, and it's possible. So I think the coaching conversations, the vision of this team, the long-term planning for what this team is going to look like come first, and Carr comes second.
Okay. And Mike Tripplett, 2 more things. neworleans.football, on Twitter at Mike Tripplett. Is there a name that you like realistic, that they could hire? Or if not a name, just what style of coach, meaning young offensive coach, a retread, a defensive coach, something like that?
Yeah, look, I think there's 2 names that stand above that everyone would celebrate as a wow, I can't believe they got that guy. And they're 2 different styles. One is Mike Vrabel, who I think is the proven coach in this year's class that I think should have his choice of teams probably, and therefore I don't think it will be the Saints. And the other is Ben Johnson, the offensive wonderkin from Detroit, who's been picky about where he wants to go and might only take 1 or 2 interviews, and that might not be the Saints. So those 2 would be defying expectations. But I think they're in play for everybody else. Aaron Glenn is considered one of the top candidates in this cycle. He's coming from, one of the most successful organizations the last few years, and everyone wants a piece of that in Detroit, plus he has all the ties to New Orleans. So I think he's probably the front runner in my mind. I think Brian Flores is another one. They interviewed last time around. He's doing an incredible job with that Minnesota defense. I think he could be in play. I do think Mike McCarthy and John Gruden are names to monitor that could be in play. And then, there's always some unexpected ones. There's always some young coordinators that not everyone thinks about. I feel like there was one more name that I was thinking makes sense. I know Pete Carroll's maybe in the cycle. I don't know if that had come to fruition. But the one good thing I think, though, is I really think there's only going to be 6 or 7 hires this time around. And I think that could benefit the Saints, that it's not one of those years with 11 or 12 openings. So I do think they will get decent caliber of choices to choose from. And
we're convinced Mickey Loomis will make the hire?
Yeah, I think so. Now, the thing I would like to see is that maybe there are front office structure changes along with the hire. Like, I would love it if he brought in a Dan Campbell and a Brad Holmes duo that are going to work under him in a different type of structure, and he's going to let them have a different way of looking at personnel and collaborate together. I don't think I expect that, but I would like to see. I want clear acknowledgement from the Saints that, look, he did not make a good hire with Dennis Allen, but that was the hire I would have picked too. So I can't criticize that. The thinking at the time was, hey, we've had the best record in the league the last 4 years. We've won at least 7 games, nearly 20 years in a row. We like our culture. We're not looking for drastic change. I hope this year it shows that they recognize they need drastic change this time.
Mike Tripplett, neworleans.football, on Twitter at Mike Tripplett. Of course, our chats all season are brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Look about your Benny's Car Wash membership club pricing over at bennyscarwash.com, bennyscarwash.com. Mike, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.